So Lama's history in just really breaking pathways for women is, I believe, incredible, but only just beginning, because I think it's going to go beyond what she's already done. But a bit on what she's already done. She's had 2 terms at the Jeddah Chamber of Commerce, which is a very powerful governing body in Saudi Arabia. The second time she was elected, she was vice chair, which was a position that your father held, and that she was the first woman to ever hold that. And then she ran for office at the municipal council in 2015. That was after elections were open to women nationwide. She made history there. She's going to tell us about that and the twists and turns of that. But before we get into this or her background, I just wanted to tell her congratulations, because on June 24th, women start driving, and you
got a license.
Yeah. Now, this is not, now I have to confess, this is not all that much new for Lama, because you've been driving when you're out of the country for years.
Yes.
You have a story of driving a buggy when you're a teenager and crashing. We won't go there today, though. But tell me, was it an emotional moment when you got that driver's license?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, I think a lot of people can't perceive what it means not to be able to drive, and then to be able to drive suddenly for no explanation except that we can drive now. And yes, and for so many years we've been trying to tell ourselves why we could not drive, and actually believing in a lot of the reasoning that we're given on why we could not drive.
What was the reasoning? Give us an insight into some of that.
It was too dangerous, women were not protected enough, people on the street were crazy, our country was too conservative, it was not what people wanted. Most women don't know how to drive, they're not prepared, there are no police women. What would a woman do if the car was not working in the street? A lot of reasons that just made no sense. But I guess women accepted them, and women just moved on. And then it became a burden, because everywhere we went, no one wanted to discuss anything that was important about being from Saudi Arabia, except that women don't drive. So I'm glad now we can move on and talk about much more interesting things, because since women will be able to drive on the 24th of June, and I just got my license a week ago, and it's amazing. You guys cannot, it's an emotion that I don't think anyone other than women in Saudi are going, and from my generation, so I'm 50, and so I've seen when I went to train at the driving school, and I saw most of these girls were under 30. They don't know what we know. So they were very excited, of course, that they could drive. The amounts that showed up were unbelievable. But it was women of my generation that were very emotional. A lot were in tears. A lot were in tears out of frustration even, not just tears of happiness and frustrations that it just happened. A lot of women worked hard at making this happen. It was a top-bottom decision, which everybody was very grateful for, but there were many years of bottom-up struggles and callings for the importance of women mobility, and I'm so happy it's happening. So I'm back on the 23rd of June, because 12.1 minutes, I will be driving.
Wonderful. So, and we want to get into a lot of the struggles that you've been at the forefront on in just a minute, and want to get some audience questions. But first, a little bit about your background. It's interesting that you have a Lebanese mother and a Saudi grandfather who was, for all practical purposes, a co-founder of Saudi Arabia, in that he was the country's first finance minister. What was that? How did that define you growing up, having a Lebanese mother and a grandfather with such deep roots in the country?
I mean, having a Lebanese mom for me was amazing. I think having a Lebanese mother was gave me a lot of who I am today. I mean, feeling different. I am a big believer of multicultural, we need to mix more, we need to open up to other cultures, and being in a family of 2 different cultures is extremely, for me, I felt I was privileged. Today, I can say that my mother being Lebanese has a lot to do with who I am today. She was very adamant about education. Was something that she would not. So even though I got married early and young, education. She was not out of my life. She was in there with me. So
since we have a short amount of time, I'm going to just run through your life and then get to the municipal elections, because that's the fascinating point here. 4 children, PhD from King's College. Served on the Jeddah Chamber of Commerce twice. Again, as I said, became vice chair, and was known as the Iron Lady because she was so, just had you have a level of power in Jeddah that was quite impressive, and which I was able to witness a couple months ago. But then you ran for office at the municipal council, and you were one of 2 women to win for this particular municipal council. Tell us about walking into that room the first day with your abaya on, no makeup, no nail polish, being very conservative, but you weren't allowed to sit at the table.
Yeah. So what everybody has to understand is twice into the Chamber of Commerce, I was elected. So I ran elections with men, and I won election against the men. So, and then I would walk into the boardroom where we're supposed to become board members, and I sit at the table with the men. When in 2015 they allowed women to run for municipal council, I told myself, why not? I've been running elections for 2 years, twice, and I won, so why not try one more time with the municipal election? And I think I love elections. I'm the type, it's just, I crave on elections. There's another one I will run for. So, so I won the elections, and I was very prepared to sit at the table with everybody. Even though I knew that municipal councils were going to be a bit more conservative. Of course, there are, in the business world, people are much more moderate, more liberal, they're more open-minded, so working with women was not really a shock to the system. Municipal council, as you know, it's everybody could run for municipal council, so you get different kinds of people, and you will get more conservatives into the council. And so I came in earlier because I knew there might be some issues, and I sat at the table. And I found an area where I should sit, where I would not bother too much those that were at the head of the table or on the side, and I then picked. And so I sat first, and then my colleague sat, and then we took 2 chairs out so that not to give the men chance, this way make them more comfortable.
They wouldn't have to sit next to you. You were trying to make it so that they didn't have to sit directly next to you.
So they would not be intimidated seeing us. Yeah. So it becomes more like a normal thing.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that I've already lived by that time for 8 years now in a man's world. So it's been, so I know how they think, I know how it is, and I'm comfortable with it. It doesn't shock me. So, and then the men started walking in. Everybody started sitting. It's a U-shaped table. So everybody started sitting at the other side of the table, and no one was daring to come on this side of the table. I was, thank God for iPhones. So I was on my iPhone, but of course, noticing everything that was happening. And then suddenly this guy walks in, the most conservative, and then he's in shock, and he goes, and I could see him move, and he comes, and somebody comes in, and he goes, Lama, I'm really sorry, but you see, we have a room here. So I turn around and I look and I say, oh, really nice, good. And he goes, no, but that it's for you to, this is where the ladies are going to sit. And I said, it's a great idea. We have conservative women in this country, and they should have a chance to also be participating. So this is a beautiful idea to get them to come and join our meetings. And he goes, no, that's not it. It's actually for you. I said, no, for me, don't worry about me. I'm fine here. I'm okay, I'm comfortable here. This is a perfect, you can all sit down and don't worry about me or my colleagues. So let's start the meeting. And for 2 to 3 hours, we did not start the meeting because the men kept coming and going to ask me to leave.
Sit in another room.
Or sit in another room. So, and my colleague and I just refused. And we said, and they said, you know, you're wasting our time, you're wasting this meeting. We might not have a first meeting, we might not have to, we're supposed to elect the chair and the vice chair. And I said, well, you know, I'm really sorry, I am not moving. And I sat. And we sat for 3 hours, and then I decided, you know, I was getting tired. I decided, you know, why don't you call the more conservatives and we will negotiate. So we did, we negotiated. So we negotiated. So I went into that room with the more conservative of the group, and I said, you know what, I am not sitting in the small room, but I will sit anywhere you want in the main room. So I could sit on a seat on the side. You can choose. You can be the winner. You pick and choose where you want me to sit. So he said, yeah, you can sit next to the wall. We can put 2 chairs. I said, fine. So as I walk
Against the wall, not at the table.
Not at the table. So I said, that's fine, as long as I can see all of you. And then he said, okay, fine. But I walk out before him, and I go, you know, we made a decision. I am sitting behind the men at the table. So I pick my chair and I put it behind one of the men that's sitting at the table. And of course, the men, that gentleman, get very embarrassed and stands up and he goes, no, 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 no way am I sitting and she's behind me. So he takes his chair and he moves it to the side. And then my colleague is sitting next to me, and then the other guy also is embarrassed and takes his chair and moves it. And now both of us are sitting a meter away at the table in the same room. However, so this is fine. This is all what we seek, and these are all challenges we're actually looking for. So we did not go into these elections unless we knew that this is what we want. These were choices we made. We want these challenges because that's the only way you make a difference and you make things change. However, the challenges are blocked and the challenges stop if then regulations come out. So 4 months later, the ministry, because you know the conservative lobbied and lobbied and lobbied to amend one of the regulations and to actually say that men and women, and that the women should not be participating in the same room and that should be segregated into a different room.
So let me, I mean, unfortunately, because we're running out of time, I wanted to speed this up and just give everybody this image that after that regulation was in place, there's a picture of Lama sitting at her computer, Skyping into the meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, so usually segregated rooms mean you have a screen and then you meet. It's like a video conference.
Yeah.
Absolutely like a video conference. But the minute that regulation came out, I just resigned. And a lot of people thought it was cowardly to resign. However, for me, it's not cowardly to resign. Since you're not living in a world which is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not a fully segregated environment. So as I explained, 8 years I'm in the chamber, we are not segregated. I worked for 14 years at the hospital in a research center. I was never segregated. So segregation is not the foundation of things. Segregation is a choice. So it was my choice. So I will not be segregated. And there were 20 women that won these elections. So 19 women are still there today, segregated, and they're happy. That's fine with me, but it's not something for me.
So I want to bring in questions, get them ready as I ask this question. What's the cultural root of gender segregation? Because some women support it too, as you point out.
Yes, and one of the challenges we have with, so 80% of unemployment in Saudi today is women. So women are highly educated and women are eager to work, but a lot of these women So we did also a polling, and we found that 57% of these women want segregated environments.
That's fascinating.
So a lot of women do not want to work in mixed environments, and because they are still not too friendly of what it is to work in a male-dominant environment. How does one? And families don't feel they're protected enough. So we've been very lucky this year. Just a month ago, we've had the National Sexual Harassment Law out, which I believe is going to support a lot of having more women go into workforce. What women are looking for today is to have an office where women can sit together when they're working. So during administration, so if you have a company, you want an office for women. Women don't want to work next to the men, but they don't mind coming out in a meeting room and sitting with their bosses or with their colleagues where they do some teamwork and they do, they work on a similar project. But they want to go back into a room where they're more relaxed. A lot of the women in Saudi are face covered, and out of choice, and so they prefer going into a room and doing their work, which is a computer or whatever work they have to do, and they can uncover their face. I mean, it's not fair also to have them for 8 hours with a face cover in a mixed environment. So we do tweak, but to a certain degree, and to have women-only businesses is becoming rarer. It's no more something that the new generation is looking for. So the new generation, whether it's a businesswoman or a businessman, are looking to service both genders. But it still is a very male-dominant society.
Questions? Yes. I know we're going to have a lot of questions. Tell us who you are real briefly. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Jean Roach from Schroders. I'm just interested, you talked about faces being covered. How about in the younger generation? Is it still quite normal?
Yes. Face covering in Saudi Arabia is very cultural. It's not something, people are not shocked. It's normal. A family grows up, you go out, you dress up, and then you go next to the door, your coats are hanging, your abaya is hanging. So the women will just pick the abaya quickly, put the headscarf, and then tie your face, and you go out. It's not something you're thinking. You're not thinking, I have to cover my face. It's a bother. No, it's an everyday. You brush your teeth, you cover your face, and you go to work.
Thank you. Right here?
Hi, you talked about your mother and how important she was for you, but I could imagine you said you married early and that you replaced your father or your in one of your roles. How important is that? They have to be super supportive to make this happen, right? They would have played a very important role.
For my father.
Yeah, was he supportive of your career path?
The men in your life. I mean,
the men in your life.
The importance of...
My husband is extremely supportive. So I got married at 19. My father was supportive, and so what I remember of my father is he's never said no about anything. So that was very supportive. But then I married at 19. I continue my education and I continue my university with my husband next to me. And my husband has been the most supportive, and I have no idea what it means not to have male members in the family not supportive. This is why in Saudi Arabia what women always have been asked for are choices. It's not whether we want it more liberal or more conservative. What do I hear? I keep hearing the world, and not only myself, but other women, we keep hearing the world saying, whether it's in Saudi, men are talking about what Saudi women need. And when we go out, the rest of the world is talking about what women should have. And then, and we live there and we go, we know what we need. We need the choice. If I want to cover my face, I can, and no one bothers me. If I want to uncover my face, I can, and it's my choice. So it's the choices that were missing at one point. And today, with the new Crown Prince and Vision 2030 and everything that is happening, there's an openness. And this openness is creating a choice.
Really briefly, do you worry about a backlash?
No backlash. 70% are young people. They don't know what we went through. They're going through an open world now today. They don't understand what they're fighting against. There's nothing to fight against because they're all under 35.
And I just have, you have to make it very, very fast. Sorry, question really quick.
Herta van Stiegel from Area Capital. My question is related to the economic situation of oil. Saudi Arabia is clearly having less and less. How important is the struggle that you have right now for full integration, for full employment of women, for the economic
Right.
welfare of Saudi Arabia?
Thank you.
I mean, everything today, Vision 2030, I mean, we've never had a vision, so written vision. I mean, so now we have something that's written. There's a strategy, there's a plan of action. It's about diversifying the economy. So we're transforming. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. It's happening fast in the major cities, yes, but it's much slower in smaller cities, of course. We're having to transform things like education at the same time, and it has to move as fast as everything else is transforming. We're trying to invite a lot of foreign investors to come in and invest in Saudi Arabia because the ecosystem is there. It's just you come into a transformation form. So you're going to hear people talk about how it was, and people not really perceiving of what it is going to look like in the future. We don't know what the future will look like, but for sure hope is high. There's a lot of opportunities there. We can see them, but at the same time, it's been hard on the economy. We've never been taxed in our lives. Suddenly now, for the past 2 years, businesses have been taxed. That is a shock. People don't know how to organize and manage these businesses, having to keep on the side money that's going to be going back to, it's ABC for everywhere else in the world, but it's not ABC for us. And not having managed business or our lives, we were consumers. We always consumed. Now we're saving. At home, it's not something people, it's not a habit that we've had. So we're changing completely.
Right. Lama will be here through lunch. I know a lot of people are interested in what's going on. There's so much change going on in Saudi. So thank you for giving us a short peek at it. And again, let's continue the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.